Hey, Jack and Wilson. Thank you for this amazing deep dive, which is surely thought-provoking for all of us, no matter if you're Christian or a non-Christian. For sure you will like it. If you do, click the like button and subscribe as well because most of you don't subscribe, unfortunately. Yeah, over 85% don't subscribe to the channel, which really hurts me. I and my team bring a debate and deep dive on almost a daily basis, which costs time, research, and knowledge. If you're new to my channel, this is the host of the channel, Cleofe at the Cleofe Podcast. Let's listen to the deep dive.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're embarking on a really in-depth exploration. It's a topic that lies, right at the heart of faith for millions around the globe.
It certainly does.
Our focus is a powerful series of arguments. These were presented by Ahmed Deedat, a pretty renowned figure in comparative religion.
Yes, from a major lecture he gave, wasn't it? In Cape Town, South Africa.
That's the one. And look, this deep dive, it isn't about telling you what to believe. Not at all.
No, definitely not.
It's about impartially dissecting the sources he presented, looking at the compelling questions he raised, really just helping you become truly well-informed on what is, let's face it, a very complex subject.
Precisely. We'll analyze Deedat's, his unique approach to interfaith dialogue.
Okay.
How he meticulously engaged with both biblical and Quranic texts and the specific arguments he constructed to challenge a central Christian doctrine. The divinity of Jesus.
Right.
Our goal is to sort of synthesize these insights, connect the dots, and help you grasp the core of his perspective, almost as if you were right there in the audience yourself.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we dive right into his arguments, maybe, who was Ahmed Deedat and what propelled him to become such a prominent voice in this whole discussion?
Well, Deedat's journey was quite unconventional, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, he worked in a country shop. And there, he frequently found himself engaging, sometimes quite intensely, with Christian missionaries who were still in training.
In training? So they were practicing on him?
Kind of, yeah. They practiced their arguments on him and his colleagues.
Yeah.
Making claims about Islam being spread by the sword, or Prophet Muhammad copying the Quran, or focusing on his multiple wives, those sorts of things.
Wow. That sounds like an incredibly formative, maybe even challenging experience.
Definitely.
It must have set the stage for something bigger, didn't it? I read that Deedat, feeling sort of desperate and without the knowledge to effectively defend his faith.
I apologize for interrupting the deep dive. Are you or someone you know struggling to land a job? Check out the ATS Resume Optimizer. I created this tool myself, and for just $5 a month, you get unlimited tailored resumes, mock interview prep, and a resume health score to boost your chances. Transform your job search today. Link in the description. Let's get back to the deep dive.
Effectively defend his faith. He stumbled upon a book.
That's right. A worm-eaten book, as he described it, titled, Is the Truth Revealed?
Is the Truth Revealed? Okay.
Yeah. This single book, written by an Arab gentleman, had apparently armed Indian Muslims against Christian evangelical arguments back during British rule in India.
So this book was key.
Absolutely. That discovery, it really reshaped his entire trajectory. The book detailed actual real-life debates.
Like examples?
Yeah, including a particularly famous one between a Maulana Abdulaziz and a Reverend Founder. And one powerful anecdote Deedat drew from this debate. It involved the Reverend asking where Muhammad was when his grandson Hussein was martyred.
Okay. How did that play out?
Well, the Maulana's reply was quite poignant, almost humorous in a dark way. He said Muhammad was in heaven.
Right.
And when the Reverend pushed, asking if Muhammad requested Allah for help, the Maulana claimed Allah replied, I couldn't save my own son. Jesus, how can I save your grandson?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why to come back.
Exactly. And Deedat used this to highlight the profound impact a single well-placed counter-argument could have. It really stuck with him.
Yeah.
And this leads us directly into Deedat's central premise in his big lecture, Is Jesus God?
Okay.
He basically turned the question on its head. He started asking, did Jesus claim to be God?
Shifting the burden of proof, almost.
Sort of. He asserted that for any claim of divinity to be taken seriously, the person themselves, well, they must have explicitly made that claim.
That's a powerful, logical framework he's setting up there. He used some analogies, too, didn't he, to make it clear?
He did, yeah. Compelling ones. Like he said, 600 million Hindus might say Mahatma Gandhi was the 11th incarnation of God.
Okay.
Or, 90 million Germans might have claimed Hitler was the second God incarnate. But If you ask the simple question, did Gandhi say he was God?
The answer is no.
Right. Did Hitler say he was God? Again, no. Deedat argued that the exact same logical standard should apply to Jesus.
That really forces you to think, doesn't it? If Jesus didn't explicitly claim divinity, well, how did this belief arise?
Exactly. That's the core question Deedat pushed. He challenged his Christian audience directly. He said, show me a single unequivocal statement.
Unequivocal, that's key.
Anywhere in the Bible, Roman Catholic or Protestant versions, any translation where Jesus says, I am God or worship me.
He really put it out there. I heard he even bought a specific Bible version just to be prepared.
Who did? He famously recounted buying an NIV, the New International Version, just because a potential questioner used it. He wanted to be ready on their terms.
He contrasted this whole idea with Thomas Carlyle, right, the writer?
Yeah, Carlyle's 1840 prediction. Carlyle thought mankind had reached a level of intellectual development where no human would ever again be accepted as God.
But Deedat disagreed.
Strongly. Deedat refuted this by saying, look, even if he, Ahmed Deedat, could fly or read minds or raise the dead, his basic mortality, his dependence on food, air, water, that would immediately disqualify him as God to any rational observer.
Exactly.
His point was that even the contemporaries of figures like Rama or Krishna or even Jesus, they didn't automatically view them as God. They often fought against them or expected, normal human actions from them.
Okay, so that's the framework. How did Deedat then turn to the biblical texts themselves to support his argument that Jesus wasn't God? What specific evidence did he highlight?
Well, he pointed to several things. For instance, Jesus' circumcision at 8 days old. That's recorded in Luke.
Okay, and the significance of that for Deedat was?
It was a clear sign of his human physical nature, subject to earthly laws and practices, just like any other Jewish male child of the time.
Right, part of the human condition.
Exactly. He also highlighted Jesus' humble response when someone called him good master in Matthew's gospel.
Ah, I remember this one, Jesus says.
He asks, why callest thou me good? There is none good except one, that is God. Deedat argued this was Jesus himself explicitly deferring ultimate goodness to God alone, separating himself from that absolute quality. And Deedat also critiqued what he called these either or fallacies. You see them a lot.
What do you mean by that? Like forcing a choice?
Exactly, that common rhetorical trap, presenting only two extreme options when actually other possibilities exist, like either Jesus is God or he's a liar, lunatic, imposter.
Right, I've heard that framing.
Deedat countered that, wait a minute, liar isn't the logical opposite of God. Jesus could simply be what he claimed to be, a messenger of God. That's another option entirely.
That reframing of the choice is actually quite significant, isn't it? It opens up other interpretations.
It does.
Building on that, how did Deedat then tackle one of the most famous phrases often cited for Jesus' divinity? I and my Father are one, from the Gospel of John.
Ah, yes, John 10:30. He meticulously broke this down. He even recounted an interaction he had with Reverend Dr. Morris, a doctor of divinity, who quoted this verse at him.
Okay, so what was Deedat's response?
He immediately demanded the context. The surrounding verse is John 10:23-30.
And the context shows?
It shows Jesus talking about the security of his followers, how they are safe in his hand and in God's hand. Deedat argued this oneness, therefore, was about a unity of purpose or unity of will.
Not a unity of substance or being.
Exactly. Not a shared divine nature. He pointed to Jesus' own words elsewhere, like, I can of my own self do nothing, from John 5:30, and crucially, my Father is greater than I.
That contextual reading is incredibly compelling. It really underscores the power of demanding context, doesn't it?
It really does.
A single verse, pulled out, can so easily misrepresent a larger narrative or intent. That's a vital lesson for interpreting any complex text, really, not just religious ones.
Absolutely. And Deedat highlighted that even in that passage in John 10, the Jews reacted by picking up stones, right? They thought Jesus was making himself God.
Yeah.
But Jesus defended himself. How? By quoting Psalm 82:6, ye are gods. And by mentioning that Moses was called a god to Pharaoh in Exodus.
Okay, so Jesus was using their own scriptures against their interpretation.
Precisely. Deedat argued this showed that the term God, or Elohim in Hebrew, was used metaphorically in their language. It could mean judges, prophets, representatives of God, not literally God Almighty. Jesus was saying, if the scripture calls them gods, why are you stoning me for saying I'm God's son?
So a linguistic defense based on how the term was used then.
Exactly. And this led him to critique the translations themselves.
How so? What did he find inconsistent?
Well, Beyond just individual verses, Deedat found issues in the very language used in English translations, arguing it subtly influenced perceptions of divinity.
Like the capitalization.
Yes, that was a big one. He pointed out how translators consistently use a small g for God when referring to Moses or judges or even the devil, like in 2 Corinthians 4.4,
Right.
but they use a capital G for Jesus, even when the context might suggest a similar metaphorical usage. And crucially, Hebrew and Greek, the original languages, had no such distinction between uppercase and lowercase letters.
So that distinction is purely an editorial choice by the translators.
That was his argument. He also cited the Greek word angelos, sometimes translated as angel, like for Mary's visitors, but other times as messenger, or even disciple, like for the Baptist followers. He saw this as inconsistent translation based on preconceived theological ideas. Then there's the whole idea of Jesus as the Son of God. That's undeniably central to Christian theology.
Right. How did Deedat approach that?
He tackled it head-on. He argued, look, if being born without a human father makes one the literal son of God, then what about Adam?
Adam, how does he fit in?
Adam was created from dust, without either a father or a mother. So Deedat argued, using that logic, Adam would be an even greater son of God. He pointed to the Quran, chapter 3, verse 59, which makes this exact comparison.
That's a powerful reframing of sonship, challenging the uniqueness based on the virgin birth premise.
Exactly. And then he elaborated on the biblical usage of the term son of God.
Because it is used for others in the Bible, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. He showed how the term is used metaphorically and broadly for many individuals. Adam's called son of God in loose genealogy.
Okay.
Israel, the whole nation, is called God's son in Exodus and Jeremiah. David is addressed as my son in Psalm 2.
Right.
And even more broadly, Paul in Romans says all those led by the Spirit of God are sons of God.
So given all those examples, what was Deedat's conclusion about the specific phrase, one and only son, applied to Jesus?
He argued that these numerous instances demonstrate the term's broader application. It signifies a special relationship, a chosen status, a divine favor, but not necessarily literal biological divine procreation.
And didn't he use another biblical figure to kind of hammer this point home? Someone quite obscure?
Yes. Melchizedek. He considered this a really powerful counter-argument, almost like a knockout punch in his debates.
Melchizedek, from the book of Hebrews.
That's the one, Hebrews chapter 7, verses 1 to 3. Paul describes Melchizedek as being without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life.
Wow. That sounds pretty divine.
Doesn't it? Deedat highlighted the irony here. By these criteria, no father, no mother, no beginning, no end to Melchizedek sounds, on paper, even greater or more mysteriously divine than Jesus, who clearly had a mother and a well-documented lineage.
That's a fascinating comparison, using the Bible's own descriptions. Okay, so he deconstructed the sonship idea. Did he apply a similar kind of analysis to the miracles? If Jesus performed miracles, didn't that prove divinity?
Not for Deedat. He consistently went back to Jesus' own statements about his power.
Such as
Matthew 28:18. All power is given unto me. Given, not inherent.
Okay, so the source of the power wasn't Jesus himself.
That was Deedat's point. Or Matthew 12:28, where Jesus says he casts out devils by the Spirit of God, again attributing the power to God. And John 5:4-3, I can of mine own self do nothing. These, for Deedat, clearly showed a dependence on a higher power, not self-sufficiency. He even meticulously retold the story of raising Lazarus from the dead from John chapter 11.
Right, a major miracle. How did he interpret that?
He noted the details. Jesus initially groaning, which Deedat interpreted as a silent prayer, Jesus weeping, human emotions, and then, crucially, his public prayer before calling Lazarus out.
What was the prayer?
Jesus says, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and then adds, but because of the people which stand by I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me.
So the prayer was for the benefit of the audience.
Exactly. Deedat argued this clearly showed Jesus seeking God's power, receiving it, and performing the miracle specifically to demonstrate that he was a true messenger sent by God, not God himself acting independently.
And wasn't there support for this view from Peter, Jesus' main disciple?
Yes, absolutely. Peter's sermon in Acts chapter 2, verse 22, often considered the first Christian sermon, actually.
What did Peter say?
He addresses the crowd, saying Jesus of Nazareth was a man approved of God among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which God did by him in the midst of you.
Which God did by him.
That phrasing seems to perfectly encapsulate Deedat's argument, doesn't it? It really does. Deedat saw Peter, the chief disciple, confirming Jesus was the instrument through which God performed miracles, not the source of the power itself. And, of course, Deedat also frequently used Jesus' cry on the cross.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Matthew 27.46. For Deedat, this is perhaps the ultimate evidence. Jesus calling out to a higher power in his moment of agony, demonstrating dependence, showing a separation, not unity of being, with God. How can God forsake God?
That's the question he posed.
He even made a linguistic point about it, didn't he? About the Eli.
Yes, what was that?
He argued that Eli, in Hebrew or Aramaic, sounds remarkably like Allah. He proposed that the actual name of God being invoked was Allah, not Jehovah.
Jehovah, he had issues with that name too.
He did. He controversially argued Jehovah was a later Western invention, a misreading or mispronunciation of the Hebrew consonants YHWH. He even called it a J-sickness, a term he used to highlight what he saw as significant errors in translation and pronunciation creeping into Western understanding.
Okay, so we've seen his arguments about Jesus' own words, the term Son of God, the miracles, the cry on the cross. How did he tie this all together into a bigger picture?
Well, if we connect this all up, Deedat consistently returned to what he saw as the fundamental, unbridgeable difference between God, the Creator, and his creation.
The creator-creation distinction.
Precisely. He often cited the Quran, chapter 6, verse 14, which states that Allah feeds but is not fed.
Yeah.
God is entirely self-sufficient, independent.
Okay, God feeds but is not fed. Absolute independence. How did he then connect that concept back to the earthly life of Jesus?
He pointed directly to another Quranic verse, chapter 5, verse 75, which says about Jesus and his mother Mary, they both ate food.
They both ate food. Seems simple, but what was the implication for Deedat?
Huge implications.
Yeah.
Deedat emphasized that needing to eat food fundamentally implies dependence. Dependence on agriculture, on digestion, and the unavoidable natural human consequence of excretion.
Ah, he went there.
He did. Humorously, sometimes, but always pointedly. He contrasted this absolute necessity of eating and its consequences with God's absolute independence and purity. How could a being who needs to eat and, well, go to the toilet, be the almighty, self-sufficient creator?
It's a very visceral argument.
It is. He even shared an anecdote about meeting, I think, an Australian Aboriginal man whose tribe called God Atnatu.
Atnatu.
Meaning, the one without an anus, or more broadly, the one without the need for excretion. Deedat argued that this supposedly primitive concept showed a more profound, more accurate understanding of God's absolute independent nature than, say, modern theological constructs that equate God with a being who ate and drank.
Wow. Okay, so ultimately, looking at Deedat's entire lecture series and sort of this deep dive we've taken, it seems to point towards a specific warning or message.
Yes, very much so. He often concluded by referencing a core Quranic warning from chapter 4, verse 171. "O people of the book, do not go to extremes in your religion."
Don't go to extremes. How did he apply that here?
He applied it to both sides of the spectrum regarding Jesus. He saw the Jewish extreme, as he put it, of rejecting Jesus entirely, sometimes calling him illegitimate, and the Christian extreme of elevating him to God himself.
So finding a middle path.
Essentially, yes. His final message was clear from his perspective. Jesus was a true prophet, a mighty messenger of God, the Messiah, born miraculously, but a man, sent by God, empowered by God, but not God himself.
It was really a call to understand, to critically examine the texts and the claims, wasn't it? Not necessarily aiming purely for conversion.
That seems to be the core of it, yes, a call to rigorous examination of sources and beliefs.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive for today. We've certainly journeyed through some complex arguments, different biblical interpretations, historical contexts, all seen through the very meticulous, very challenging lens of Ahmed Deedat's perspective.
Absolutely. And this whole discussion, it really raises an important question, I think, for you, the listener, to ponder. Given this detailed analysis we've explored, looking at specific words, at context, at the fundamental concept of divine nature versus human nature, what does it mean for you to truly understand the origins, the nuances, and the meanings behind the beliefs you hold most dear, whatever they may be?
That's a powerful thought to leave with. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We really hope this exploration has given you some new insights, maybe sparked some more questions, and encouraged you to continue your own journey of discovery.
Indeed.
Until next time, keep digging.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.